Well, hi everyone. We're back and we're doing the speed run. So we're actually got a rating up to 2304 now. So it's getting pretty serious. And we're playing someone who's 2168, a good rating. And I'm wheeling out the birds for a change, but a bit of bird shit is always good. And just to play something different. Obviously, I've got my chessable course on this. Mine and Ravens, and now my opponent's played e5. And in that chessable course, I think the best move is probably to take this pawn, and white is better there. But it's quite complex, and there's quite a lot of memory involved. So obviously, if you're going to learn any opening, you should learn the sharp lines and memorize them. But there is an opportunity now to play the King's Gambit, and you don't get many opportunities to give this a go. So let's go for the King's Gambit, and this move transposes into the King's Gambit, which is one of the most romantic, exciting openings. My opponent has declined it by simply moving his bishop. A trick you've got to avoid here is taking this pawn because the queen comes out. But let's concentrate on our moves. Let's develop a piece behind the pawns. And one of the ideas of this is you try to encourage black to take that one so you can take over the centre. Unfortunately, with modern day computers, the King's Gambit is considered to be a bit dubious, but it's still very much fun to play. And like any system, you've got to know what to do. And this bishop move's quite a good move because it's stopping us from castling. And one way we can try to do that, break that idea, is c3 and d4, because we definitely want to castle. But another thing we can try to do is go for knight a4 to take that bishop. And I think theoretically this is considered the slightly better way. We continue our development, we put our pieces on best squares, and then we go for that move. So this move seems a little bit slow to me. Does my opponent really need to play that move? That seems like an unnecessary pawn move. Maybe he wants to take and support the pawn, but he doesn't need that pawn there. I don't see the point behind this move. So let's continue by developing our bishop to the best square. Checking is pointless because it helps our opponent get a better position. And we're just going to ask the question, why have you gone for that move? We may, even now, because he's wasting time, have ideas of going d4. We may even now have ideas of capturing and taking the knight. So he's now taken our pawn. But this seems a little bit odd. He seems like he's mixing up many different systems here. And now we get a chance to take over centre, which I very much do. And one of the rules in the King's Gambit is that if you can win back your pawn, you're normally always going to be better because you've got the big centre. And I don't see why I shouldn't be better now. This move, you can see, doesn't really have any point to it. Now my opponent can try to develop with the idea of taking on e4. I'm just wondering if I can castle. Then he's pinning our knight, but again, this is no threats to our position. I'm just wondering for some idea like knight here, bishop takes queen, bishop takes here, the king goes here. It's not going to work, so let's just simply castle. Another advantage of the King's Gambit, you've got this open f-file to attack along. So I'm just keeping that very open. My knight is not pinned anymore. It was pinned before. So I can maybe start using my pieces. And I've basically now completed the basics. I've controlled the centre beautifully. I've got the ideal development of minor pieces. So the second thing you should do in the opening, bring your knights and bishops out. And the final thing you should aim to do in the opening is get your king safe, which I've done. I've got my king castled. So now that I've done those things and my opponent hasn't, I can start to think about putting plans into motion and thinking about the best way to proceed. So here, maybe my opponent wants to take and take here. Probably more so wants to castle. Can we try to open the position up now while we have an opportunity? So e5, while his king is in the center. And after pawn takes, this knight takes doesn't work, does it? Takes here, it's just a check. But after here takes, we could consider bishop takes f7 check. And then if king takes, knight takes here, check, knight takes here. But I think after here takes check, maybe king f8's a bit annoying. Very interesting position. I don't think I should get involved with tactics like that quite yet. They don't really seem to work. I'm now thinking that this knight is quite a good piece for him. It does give his king a bit of better protection. My knight's not good. Not really good. It's not really doing much. It's just defending. So if I go knight here and we exchange off on that square, I get rid of a piece around his king side for a piece that I don't feel is great. And also I kind of like the idea of putting a pawn here because that will gain a tempo on the bishop. It will consolidate my centre. And also I've got ideas of putting a bishop on c2 and a queen on d3. h6 is actually an unnecessary weakness for my opponent because if he wants to play g6 later, blunting this diagonal, he's weakened that square by playing this h6 move. So I'm just going to play this very simple move now of putting my knight there, introducing an exchange of pieces, getting rid of a piece that defends his king side because I'm obviously threatening to win his bishop. And if he takes, bishop takes, he probably has to play c6. And my bishop can aim to come here, my queen here, in quite a harmonious way. This pin is of no danger. My queen coming to d3 will get out of the pin. And my queen probably wants to come to d3 anyway. And I don't know what my opponent's thinking here because I can't see any other option. I'm threatening to take his bishop. He can't move the bishop. That's just too slow. And the sun shines on the righteous. So I'm not sure why it's shining in my eyes now. You can even see the window panes, can't you? The crosses on my face. Hail Jesus. And it's not actually a cross, it's a number of crosses. Maybe I should get rid of that because I can't actually see. We could try some blindfold chess, but it'd be bloody hard to move the mouse then. So my opponent has moved his knight out, which is a little bit strange, I think, because I can now play c3 anyway, and surely he's going to have to take this knight off at some point. That looks even worse, doesn't it? Let's just get rid of that one. Okay. There we go. Bit of sun. It's nice to have a bit of sun in England. We don't get much of it. So here I can take the bishop. There's one attractive idea. I can play c3 and leave his bad bishop. So what do? I think I don't think his bishop's very good. So I'm just going to play this move. We can always swap the knights off at some point. And now I can even consider doing things like this as well. Many tempting moves here. Queen d3 is a very sensible move. Defending the pawn, getting ready on this diagonal. a4 looks like a lot of sense. Threatening b4 and winning here. So a4, the bishop comes back, then b4. And I start to push his pieces around. I'm going to play this. It's a bit trickier for him to handle. We might as well save b4 as an option because now if he does castle, it gives him, I can go b4 and a5, win a piece. So rather than forcing things, we're probably going to get the same position after bishop here, b4. The same position that I could have got by forcing things with b4, bishop here, a4. But by playing a4, we give our opponent a chance to go wrong. And I guess you only force the position when you're gaining something. I mean, there's no point forcing the issue if you're not gaining something, right? So this certainly gives him a chance to go wrong. So he now has played a6. So his bishop's trying to get away like this. So probably b4 is what I'm going to play anyway. But then after bishop here, we can take there. But I don't know, his bishop, there's no rush, is there? So I'm just going to improve by connecting my rooks, defending my pawn in the center, and getting out of this pin. This is quite a nice square. And here, I'm very tempted to even slowly bring this bishop around, but maybe I should start thinking about the f-file. So could I start considering sacrifices or bringing the bishop to pin that knight? could I think about moving the knight so we start opening things up here? I'd love to go here, but then it goes into his queen. So after here, he could probably take my knight. So we could consider going backwards, because it's not going to go forwards now, is it? Because if we go backwards, we're opening up the rook. It looks very interesting. We could consider here and here, but e4 is a bit weak when his bishop gets to this square, so we don't want to do that. And if we go bishop here, that also looks very tempting. Then this is quite nice. So if I move my bishop, then my knight can go forwards, and my bishop defends the knight, and also I open up the rook. So this seems to hit a lot of points, this one. I was kind of tickling him on the queen side, but at the end of the day, we want to go for a kingside attack. And I could get a better position by going b4 and taking that bishop, but at the moment, this is not necessary. Not necessary to do. So we might as well just try to go for the attack. So if he attacks e4 here, my rook can come over and defend it if I need to. So that gets another piece in the game. But maybe my main idea is just to go bishop here, because then if he goes g5, he opens his king up drastically. And let's not forget, with the bishop pointing towards his king and my queen here, if I ever get rid of this pawn, I've got queen g coming into this square in some circumstances. So I'd love him to play a rash and open move like g5. So bishop here, g5, I'd probably just sacrifice a piece on g5. But what else does he do? Well, he probably has to take my knight then. So bishop takes is logical, because then my bishop stays on this diagonal attacking f7. He hasn't played it. So now bishop h4 looks... I mean, the other great idea here is knight h4, because my knight can try to come into this great square. They both look very strong, but as his bishop is so far offside, let's hit those dart squares. His bishop is so bad. This has been one of the problems throughout the game, and another reason why we shouldn't have swapped it off. Let's look how much stronger my knight is than that bishop. There's no point swapping off your opponent's wayward pieces. Whenever you're making an exchange of minor piece and minor piece, always consider which minor piece is better, and if yours is better, don't make the exchange. Don't swap off your opponent's bad pieces unless you've got a really good reason. Okay, so now I can destroy his king side, and bishop takes looks correct because I want this square for my knight so we can increase the pressure, because then I'm threatening to take that bishop. So let's destroy his king side. This is going like clockwork so far, this game. Quite easy. Again, I'm not calculating far. I'm calculating a little bit. I'm just getting my pieces the best squares. I know good attacking ideas. I'm, you know, it's just logic. And now my knight comes here. Why? Because I want to open up the rook to f6. So I start knight f6. I want to open up ideas of here, opening up the bishop. And in some cases, my queen might want to switch over as well. My knight in some positions might want to come here. And it does many cool things. So I could now take this pawn, and I think that's what we're probably going to do, because it doesn't just win a pawn, but my knight defends this pawn. My knights look very dangerous. My bishop opens up. There's other tempting moves, but of course, if you can win a pawn, you should do. And this just increases my attacking chances now. What am I going to do next? Well, I like the idea of my queen maybe pinning his bishop is one idea. Then I have two knight checks coming available. I like the idea. We should always keep an eye on what our opponent's trying to do. And it's clear now with this move. He wants to put his knight on this square. I think that's quite clear. Now, can we go queen here? And if knight here... check, king takes here, queen h4 is checkmate. So if we go queen here, knight here, check, he has to move his king. He can only move his king there, and then my queen aims to this one somehow, like queen h4. And I'm coming in, aren't I? So I like that. So let's go for the final kill now. So I want to get the knight to f5. I've realised that his idea of knight e5 maybe doesn't help him because I got this check. A safe move in my last position would just be moving the king out of the way, because then I avoid his knight e5 idea. But I'm trying to go for the final kill, bringing the knight in, check, and then bringing the queen in to take on h6. And I've got so many pieces attacking now. And I removed that knight around his king earlier on, so it's made made this position very, very, very dangerous. I might even have ideas of knight here, check. I might have ideas of something happening on g6. If I've got time, why not bring in another piece? That would be lovely, because then all my pieces are attacking his king. Literally, if I moved a rook. I mean, at the moment, I've got a rook, 2 knights, a queen and bishop, and that should be enough to do something. Okay, so my opponent's come here, which of course I missed, but my position's so good, there's no need to panic. And I missed the idea. Nice little tactic. See, I do miss things, or the bishop coming around, but we don't need to worry, I don't think. The other idea is check. He takes it, because I think I'm just going to move my king. And the thing is, I did miss that tactic, but his position, frankly, was so bad that tactics don't really deserve to work. Yet tactics can happen at any point and it can turn the game. And I should have seen that tactic. That was just bad on my part. I should have probably gone king h1, played this move. But I don't think this is going to work, because now I am threatening just to win the knight. If his knight comes back, I take it, and then g6 is going to be on pre. So knight e6, bishop takes, pawn takes here. If he moves his knight now, I'm threatening to take it, and if he takes the bishop, it won't be check. So I'm effectively just winning a piece. If his knight moves, I'm going to be gaining this square for my knight. So let's say knight c2, check. King takes here, check. King here. Well, this move, as we know, already loses. We can very simply just go bishop takes knight, and we take here. He was under a lot of pressure. Again, this is probably only going to be a 20 move game. And, you know, chess can be made to look easy, but there's quite a lot of stuff going on in the background to this game, as I'm sure you can appreciate. I mean, I've told you pretty much about all my thought process here. This is reasonably easy. I've got a queen for a rook, so we need to be a bit careful, but you know, I don't need to comment on every move now. And the key things here were well, picking the right moves, knowing the right plan in the opening. My opponent played some very slow ideas like h6. He took on this square on f4 when he could have done it on move 2. He didn't. He was mixing up a lot of his systems, which can never be a good thing. And how are we going to put the ball in the back of the net? Let's just annoy his king a little bit. And I shouldn't really be relaxing here, because you know, you should never relax until the game's over. But you know, here's a bloody queen, and look at my 3 pieces coordinating. The knight and queen work so well together. And the one thing I'm doing is try to keep the initiative up. So now we should be looking for the final kill, really. So what knight jump? Well, if I take here, I've got rook takes f7 if he retreats. So this one is not about necessarily taking the rook, which I could do, and that would be winning massively. But can't we mate him? Rook takes here, check. He has to move his king, and then my queen comes to d7, checkmate. So this one is even stronger, because we're going to checkmate him on the next move. Okay, well, there you go. Do like, do subscribe. I guess we're gaining points very slowly, but all these games I think are you know, very well. They're quite thematic to what's going on, and this is a typical mistake. Why play h6 here? There's no reason. Don't play silly pawn moves. And he made a couple more mistakes, like taking here I don't like, because he's mixing up 2 systems. This doesn't really fit in with the accepted King's Gambit. And now I get a beautiful position. And even this move I don't really like, because it's not helping his king get safe. It's not. You want to develop your knights before your bishops because your bishops come out very quickly. And now I simply castle, and already he's in a very bad situation here. I just play normal good moves, and then I start formulating plans of attack. It's maybe worth pointing out that if you get a chance to play on both sides of the board and you can control every area, then take it. You don't need to rush always. And pretty smooth game. Cheers.